The real secret to a man's deepest pleasure isn't in your hands, it's in the way you make him feel when he's with you. From the outside, it may seem like men are simple, but the truth is, his greatest satisfaction comes from far more than physical touch. What truly ignites him is the energy you create, the way you see him, and the way you make him feel chosen. That's where his real pleasure begins. Men often get painted as simple creatures when it comes to pleasure, as if their desires begin and end with the physical. But the truth is far richer than that. A man's experience of intimacy is woven together with both emotional and physical connection. If you want to understand where his real pleasure lies, you have to see beyond the surface. Physical touch might spark his senses, but what deepens the experience and makes it unforgettable is when it's fused with emotion, when he feels something bigger than the moment. For him, it isn't just about what you do to his body, it's about what you awaken in his mind and his heart at the same time. Think about it this way. Imagine two scenarios. In one, a man is touched in exactly the right physical way, but there is no emotional spark, no sense of closeness, no genuine intention behind it. In another, he is touched with warmth, with intention, and with the feeling that the person with him genuinely sees him and desires him. The difference between the two is night and day. One may feel good for a moment, but the other leaves a lasting imprint. That's because his deepest pleasure isn't just in the body, it's in knowing that the touch is connected to real care and real desire. When a man feels emotionally connected, everything else intensifies. His body responds in a stronger, more natural way. His senses become sharper, his desire grows deeper, and most importantly, he feels safe enough to let go of his guard. Many men walk through life with walls built up around them. They are taught not to show vulnerability, not to let their emotions spill out, not to let someone else hold the power of making them feel exposed. But in intimacy, those walls come down. And when they do, when he feels not just touched, but truly cared for, the physical sensation becomes something far more meaningful. This is why his pleasure is not simply mechanical. If it were only about stimulation, intimacy would be the easiest thing in the world, but real connection is what makes it different. When he knows that the person he is with values him, wants him, and is present in the moment, his body reacts in ways that can't be faked. A gentle touch feels electric. A soft kiss lingers in his memory long after it's over. The emotional charge amplifies everything physical, turning what could have been just an encounter into an experience he treasures. Too often, people underestimate how much men want to feel chosen. They want to feel like they are not just fulfilling a role, but that they are desired for who they are. This desire is what fuels their physical pleasure, because the body follows the heart. A man who feels emotionally distant may still go through the motions, but a man who feels emotionally connected will open up completely. He will give more of himself, and he will receive more in return. So when we talk about a man's pleasure, it's a mistake to only think of it in terms of physicality. His body is not separate from his emotions. They are linked, and when one is engaged, the other becomes stronger. If you want to unlock his deepest pleasure, you must engage both at once. That's the secret most people miss. His pleasure lies not just in where you touch him, but in how you make him feel while you do. When most people think about a man's number one pleasure spot, their minds immediately go to the physical. They picture a specific part of his body, assuming that if they touch him there, they'll unlock the deepest level of satisfaction. But the truth is far more complex and far more interesting. The spot that truly heightens his pleasure isn't only on his body, it's in the way he feels seen, understood, and desired by the person he is with. This is the secret that many overlook. The body responds to touch, but the mind and heart amplify it. When he feels acknowledged and wanted, the physical sensations reach a level that is far more powerful than anything touch alone can create. Imagine a man who is touched perfectly, yet feels no genuine care or interest from his partner. The moment may satisfy him for a short while, but it leaves no lasting impression. Compare that with a moment where he feels desired, where he feels that the person with him isn't just going through the motions, but truly wants to connect with him. Suddenly, every sensation is magnified. A simple caress becomes unforgettable. A kiss feels more intense. Even silence carries weight because it is filled with presence. That's the difference between focusing only on physical spots and recognizing that the real pleasure spot lies in the emotional atmosphere surrounding the intimacy. This is why so many men describe their most pleasurable experiences not just in terms of physicality, but in how they felt during the experience. They talk about being wanted, about feeling attractive, about feeling important. These emotions feed their body's responses. The physical experience becomes richer, fuller, and more satisfying because it is not detached from the heart. Pleasure for him is not a one-dimensional thing. It is a combination of being touched in the right places and feeling like the person touching him is doing it with real desire, admiration, and affection. The mistake is to think of men as purely physical beings who only care about the surface. While it may be tempting to assume this, reality shows otherwise. A man who feels emotionally disconnected may still react to physical touch, but it will not hold the same depth. On the other hand, a man who feels emotionally engaged can find enormous pleasure in even the smallest gesture, a glance, a whisper, a hand resting on his chest. All of these can become deeply meaningful when they are connected to genuine intent. His true pleasure spot is not a place on his body, but the state of being understood and valued in the moment. It comes down to this: men crave more than just stimulation. They crave significance. They want to know that the person they are with isn't just performing an act, but is actually enjoying the connection as much as they are. When he senses this, his body responds in a way that no single touch could ever replicate. The energy between two people becomes the most potent form of pleasure, and that is why his number one pleasure spot cannot be reduced to just a part of him. It is about the way you make him feel in combination with how you touch him. The physical and emotional are inseparable, and when both are aligned, he experiences intimacy on the deepest level. Men might not always say it out loud, but at the core of what they desire lies something simple yet powerful. They crave admiration and appreciation. This doesn't mean they are fragile or constantly seeking validation, but it does mean that the way they are seen and acknowledged plays a huge role in how they experience pleasure, intimacy, and even love itself. A man can be touched in every physical way possible, but if he feels unappreciated, unnoticed, or taken for granted, the pleasure will never reach its full potential. On the other hand, when he feels admired and valued, even the smallest gesture of affection can carry a powerful impact. Every man, no matter how confident he appears, carries a quiet need to feel like he matters. Society often teaches men that they must be strong, reliable, and in control at all times. This creates a pressure to constantly perform, to live up to expectations, and to hide any sign of weakness. But beneath all of that, there is a yearning to be acknowledged not just for what they provide, but for who they are. When someone admires him, not only for his achievements, but for his character, his efforts, and even his flaws, it touches a place within him that goes deeper than the physical. That recognition becomes a form of pleasure that no physical act can replace. Admiration is not about empty compliments or flattery. It is about genuinely noticing and appreciating what makes him unique. It might be the way he protects the people he loves, the way he works hard to create a better life, or the way he tries to show up even when he's exhausted. When a man hears sincere words of admiration, he feels seen in a way that cuts through the walls he has built. This is why appreciation is such a vital part of intimacy. When he knows that his presence and efforts are valued, he opens himself up more fully and his emotional guard comes down. That is when pleasure transforms into connection, and connection transforms into something unforgettable. Think about the difference between a moment where he feels like he is being judged, compared, or criticized versus a moment where he feels like he is admired and appreciated. In one, he may still go through the motions of intimacy, but there will be distance between his body and his heart. In the other, his entire being becomes invested. His physical response is heightened because it is fueled by emotional certainty. He is not only being touched, he is being honored in that moment, and that makes the experience far more powerful. Appreciation also plays into a man's sense of confidence. When he feels admired by the person closest to him, he carries that energy into the world. It gives him strength, motivation, and a deeper connection to his partner. This doesn't mean that he is dependent on constant praise, but it does mean that sincere appreciation from the person he cares about most has a multiplying effect on his sense of worth. The intimacy between them becomes not just about pleasure, but about affirming his place in her life. That affirmation enhances every physical experience they share, because his body and mind are both aligned in the knowledge that he is desired and respected. At the heart of it, men want to feel like heroes in the eyes of the people they love, not in a grand, exaggerated way, but in the sense that who they are and what they do makes a difference. When admiration and appreciation are present, intimacy becomes more than physical. It becomes a celebration of who he is, and that feeling is the true key to unlocking his deepest level of pleasure. Confidence in connection is one of the most overlooked aspects of male pleasure, yet it is the very thing that can turn an ordinary encounter into an extraordinary one. A man's physical response may seem automatic, but what truly deepens his experience is knowing that the person with him is genuinely interested in his satisfaction. When he feels that energy, when he senses that his partner is not just present but invested in making the moment meaningful, his confidence rises and his ability to enjoy the experience multiplies. Confidence here is not about arrogance or bravado. It is about feeling secure in the bond and trusting that both people are there with the same intention of connection and pleasure. Many men walk into relationships carrying silent doubts. They wonder if they are enough, if they are truly desired, if their efforts are appreciated. These doubts create hesitation, and hesitation dampens intimacy. But when a man feels his partner's confidence in the connection, when he feels that she is with him not out of obligation, but out of genuine choice, the weight of those doubts begins to dissolve. He is no longer second-guessing himself or overthinking his every move. He is able to relax, to let go, and to immerse himself fully in the experience. That freedom alone is one of the greatest gifts you can give him, because it allows his body and emotions to work in harmony rather than against each other. Connection built on confidence has a different energy to it. It communicates safety. It reassures him that he doesn't have to perform or prove himself every second, that his value in the moment is not dependent on flawless execution, but on shared desire. This is why confidence in connection fuels pleasure so powerfully. When he doesn't feel like he's being measured or judged, when he feels instead that his presence is already enough, the intimacy deepens. Every touch becomes more potent, every kiss carries more weight, and every second feels more alive. What's important to understand is that confidence in connection is not one-sided. It is a loop. When his partner shows confidence in wanting to be with him, it feeds his confidence, and in turn, his increased confidence makes him more attentive, more generous, and more present. This creates a cycle where both people give more and receive more, each fueling the other's experience of pleasure. Intimacy becomes a shared creation rather than an individual pursuit. That is when both hearts and bodies align in a way that makes every moment feel more powerful than the last. Confidence also has the ability to transform vulnerability. Many men are conditioned to hide their emotions and suppress their needs, which can leave them feeling guarded even in the most intimate spaces. But when he feels that the connection is strong, when he knows he is with someone who is not only interested in what he can give, but also cares about what he feels, he dares to be vulnerable. That vulnerability allows him to share more of himself without fear of rejection. And in doing so, he unlocks levels of pleasure that only come when two people are fully open with each other. In the end, confidence in connection makes intimacy effortless. It shifts the focus from worrying about how he is performing to simply being present in the experience. That presence is where the deepest form of pleasure exists. A man who feels secure in the bond, confident that his satisfaction matters, and free from the weight of doubt will experience intimacy in a way that no physical act alone could ever create. His pleasure is no longer just about the body, it becomes about the complete connection he feels in that moment. Communication is the key that unlocks every hidden door in intimacy, and for a man, it is the bridge between his desires and his ability to fully experience pleasure. Many people underestimate how powerful simple, honest words can be, yet for men, communication often provides the safety and clarity they need to open up completely. Without it, he may hold back, leaving parts of himself unexplored. With it, he feels invited to share, to trust, and to step into vulnerability, which amplifies every physical and emotional experience. A man's body responds best when his mind is at ease, and communication is what gives him that peace of mind. When a man is asked what he likes, what makes him feel good, or even what he might want to try, it does something profound to him. It tells him that his desires matter. It signals that his needs are not only accepted, but welcomed. For many men, this is a rare experience because they are used to carrying the weight of always initiating, always leading, and rarely being asked what they actually want. When his partner communicates openly and creates space for his voice, it shifts the balance. He feels considered, valued, and free to express himself without fear of being judged. That sense of acceptance allows him to relax into the moment and heightens the intensity of his pleasure. Communication in intimacy also dissolves guesswork. Far too often, both men and women assume they need to figure everything out silently, as if reading each other's minds is the mark of true connection. But the reality is that silence leaves room for doubt and insecurity. A man may wonder if he is doing the right thing, if he is satisfying his partner, or if his efforts are being appreciated. That mental noise can distract him from fully enjoying the experience. But when communication is present, when there is verbal or even non-verbal feedback, the uncertainty vanishes. He knows where he stands. He knows his touch is wanted, and with that assurance, his confidence and pleasure both increase. It's not just about asking questions or giving instructions, though. It's about creating a flow of exchange that deepens the bond. When he shares something personal and it is met with openness instead of criticism, he feels safer. That safety translates into trust, and trust makes him more willing to give of himself. Communication makes intimacy collaborative rather than one-sided, and that collaboration creates a dynamic where pleasure becomes richer and more fulfilling for both people involved. The more he communicates, the more he learns what brings true satisfaction, not just to his body, but to his heart. Another part of communication that is often overlooked is the simple act of expressing desire. Men crave to know that they are wanted, that their partner is drawn to them, and that the connection is mutual. Words of desire can ignite something in him that touch alone cannot. When he hears that his partner enjoys being with him, when he is reminded that his presence is exciting and irresistible, the pleasure grows from anticipation as much as from physical contact. Those words stay with him, feeding his confidence long after the moment has passed. Ultimately, communication transforms intimacy into something more than just physical satisfaction. It ensures that no one is left guessing, that both people are heard, and that pleasure is built on mutual understanding. For a man, this is everything. It reassures him that he is free to express his needs. It validates his role in the relationship, and it eliminates the doubts that so often limit his enjoyment. When communication flows, his body follows, and the experience becomes not just pleasurable, but deeply connective. It is through words, openness, and honesty that his most profound sense of pleasure is truly unlocked. Safety and trust are the foundation of a man's deepest pleasure, even though it is rarely spoken about in those terms. On the surface, it may seem like pleasure is only about stimulation or technique, but the reality is that none of that reaches its fullest potential unless he feels completely safe in the connection. For a man, safety is not just physical, it is emotional and psychological. It is the sense that he can let his guard down, be himself without fear of judgment, and share his vulnerabilities without the risk of rejection. When that kind of trust exists, it frees him to give and receive in ways that heighten every aspect of intimacy. From a young age, men are often taught to hold their emotions in, to present strength at all costs, and to avoid showing weakness. While this may work in the outside world, it creates barriers in their closest relationships. These barriers can make it difficult for a man to completely relax, even when he is with someone he loves. But when he feels a genuine sense of safety, when he knows that his partner will not use his openness against him, those barriers begin to fall. That moment of release is when true intimacy begins. His body responds more fully because his mind is no longer occupied with defense. His heart engages more deeply because he trusts that he is in a space where he can be seen and accepted as he really is. Trust plays an equally powerful role. Without trust, even physical closeness can feel distant. He may participate in the motions of intimacy, but part of him will remain guarded, always holding back. Trust tells him that he can step into the experience completely, that he does not need to keep a part of himself hidden. When trust is present, pleasure is not only magnified, it becomes more meaningful. The sensations of the body are tied to emotions of connection, and together they create something far more powerful than physical touch alone. Safety and trust also create an environment where experimentation and openness are possible. When a man feels safe, he is more willing to express what he truly wants. He doesn't fear being laughed at, dismissed, or criticized. He trusts that his desires will be heard with respect, even if they are not always fulfilled. That freedom of expression allows him to connect more authentically, and that authenticity makes intimacy deeper. The pleasure then comes not only from the act itself, but from the bond of honesty and acceptance that surrounds it. It is also important to recognize that safety and trust are not built in a single moment. They are created over time through consistent actions, words, and choices. Every time his vulnerability is met with kindness, every time his effort is acknowledged, and every time his openness is protected rather than exploited, the trust grows stronger. As it does, his ability to surrender into intimacy grows with it. That surrender is what makes the difference between surface-level pleasure and profound, unforgettable connection. The presence of safety allows him to feel truly chosen, not for what he can provide, not for the mask he wears in the outside world, but for who he really is. That feeling alone is intensely pleasurable because it goes beyond the body and reaches his core. Trust assures him that he will not lose that acceptance, that he can return to that space again and again. Together, safety and trust form the environment where a man experiences his highest form of pleasure, because only in that space can he be completely free. At the heart of everything we've explored lies a simple truth. A man's deepest pleasure is never just about the physical. Yes, touch matters, but what truly elevates his experience is the emotional foundation behind it. When he feels connected, admired, safe, trusted, and genuinely desired, every sensation becomes amplified. His number one pleasure spot is not a single place on his body. It is the space you create together, a space built on intimacy, communication, appreciation, confidence, and trust. When those elements are present, you don't just satisfy him, you reach him. You make him feel chosen, understood, and alive in a way that no one else can. That is the secret to unlocking not only his pleasure, but also a deeper bond that strengthens the entire relationship.